All right, we are going to start our functions unit by talking about quadratics. And quadratics should be pretty familiar to you since Algebra 2 focuses so heavily on quadratics. I'd like you to start off by naming some of the, I call them the big four, but important key concepts of this quadratic function. So press pause and see if you came up with the same ones as I have. So one of the big four are, just like with any function, it's important to know what your y-intercept is. So your y-intercept, we can find that, how to find it, would be set your x equal to 0 and solve for y. That would be how we algebraically would find our y-intercept. The next one, well, you could probably guess it. I'm going to say the x-intercepts. Our x-intercepts, well, we do the opposite. We set y equal to 0 and we solve for x. Sometimes this is easy by factoring. Other times you have to use a quadratic formula to actually find out what those values are. Another important characteristic is this famous line right down the center. And if you fold your quadratic in half, it's symmetric about this line. This is known as your line of symmetry. And your line of symmetry is found from a quadratic function by taking its x, its vertical line. So the equation will be x equals negative b over 2a. And the last one is this point right here. And that point is your, maybe we could, our vertex, right? If you wanted to label your graph, you would say number 4 here. This is the y-intercept, that's 1. X-intercept, this is 2 here, 2 here. And your line of symmetry, which is 3 right here. To find the vertex, well, you take your line of symmetry, and that's your x point, right? So it's negative b over 2a. And then to find the y value, you take that value, whatever that is, and you substitute it back into the function. Your vertex is nice because it helps you determine what is your max and minimum of a function, depending on whether the quadratic is opening up or down. All right, going on to the next page. Here, I want you to sketch the following first without a calculator and then check your answers using the calculator, identifying the big four. So I'm going to start this page and just make a sketch, rough sketch of this one here. So first off, this form is actually called x-intercept form or factored form of a quadratic. And the reason why is because it's easy to find our x-intercepts. Our x-intercepts is when we set y equal to 0 and we solve. And here we talked about this already last unit. We would use our 0 property. We can divide both sides by -2 and we end up with just x being 1 or -3. I'll start my sketch over here so that we can kind of see what's happening with our function. If it just says sketch, we're not going to use graph paper. We're just going to kind of do a rough sketch as we go along. So our x-intercepts are 1, 1, and -3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'll go ahead and do my y-intercept, which is when I set x equal to 0 and solve for y. So I have -2 times 0 minus 1, 0 plus 3. So I get -2 times -1 times 3. So that gives me a positive 6. So I'll write that as a coordinate point. So that is 0, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'll find my line of symmetry here, and that is equal to -b over 2a. Well, here we don't have it written in standard form, so we could expand all of this to write it in standard form, and then we can identify what b and a are. So I have f of x I'm going to distribute my factored form here. So I'm foiling. So x squared plus 3x minus x would be plus 2x minus 3, and then I'll distribute my negative 2 through. Hopefully not making any mistakes. And I have negative b, so thinking about ax squared plus bx plus c, negative b would be negative 4, all over 2 times our negative 2. So this gives us a positive 4 over a negative 4, which gives me just 1. So that means my line of symmetry, well, that doesn't seem right. Let's see what we did here. Plus 2x minus 3, negative b, all over 2 times a. This should be a positive 4, which would be negative 1. All right, I knew right away that it was off because of my x-intercepts. And our x-intercepts are directly in between or halfway. The line of symmetry is halfway between them, so I could have just looked at the graph and not done all that work. Now, to find the vertex, I want to find f of negative 1. I already know my vertex lies somewhere here. Since the negative occurs, it's opening down, so it's going to be somewhere here. So I substitute in my negative 1 for x. And I get negative 2 times negative 2 times 2. So that gives me a positive. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So 6, 7, 8. There is my big 4, and I can draw a rough sketch of my quadratic. So now to do this on the graphing calculator, I'll show you how we can set that up here and find our values there. So remember, let's all really quick, second memory, we'll reset all so we have the same screen and the starting graph. So if I go to y equals, I can put in a negative 2 parenthesis x minus 1 end parenthesis x plus 3 end parenthesis and hit graph. So to find my x-intercepts, and here's where you'll have to practice this a few times. I can go to second calc. Zeros are my x-intercepts. So number 2, when it's asking for the left bound, you just want to move. What I like to say is I move close to where my intercept is, and then I press the arrow once, twice to the left, and hit enter. Now it's asking for the right bound, so I move to my x-intercept and go 1, 2, and hit enter. And then the guess, you hit enter. There's one of your zeros right here. So this came up with our 0 as negative 3, 0. And that checks out to be the same. Then we can go back, and to find the other one, second calculate, number 2. So if we're looking for this one, I move over to my 0 again. And when it says left bound, I go 1, 2 with my left arrow, hit enter. Right bound, I'm on my x-intercept, 1, 2, hit enter, and then guess enter, and there's my 1. So 1, 0, which checks out. Now to find the y-intercept, I can hit trace, and if I want to know when x is 0, I hit a 0 and enter, and it calculates 0, 6. That checks out again. So here we're checking our answers as we're going along, and we're good so far. Now to find your line of symmetry, well, that falls on the vertex, so we just have to find our maximum point. So we go second calculate, maximum number 4, and again it's asking that left and right bound, so I go up to my max, and then just like before for the left, 2 spots, 2 arrow pushes to the left, enter, go up to your max again, then 2 arrow pushes to the right, enter, and then guess, enter. And here it is, negative 9999999, comma 8, which this, although it's an approximate, it is negative 1. So that matches our line of symmetry, and I'll put it here. It gave us the point negative 1, comma 8 for the vertex. So that matches with our point here that we found, and our 8, negative 1. And then from the calculator won't tell you what the line of symmetry is, but we know that the line of symmetry comes from the x value on our vertex. So I want you to go ahead and try the next two on your own. I'll come back and maybe just do them with you on the next videos.